Fentanyl is an extremely strong painkiller, much more powerful than morphine. Doctors prescribe it in lower doses for cancer patients, but dozens of people have died in Britain in the past few years after taking it to try to get a high. Today, a 25-year-old drug dealer from Newport was sentenced to 8 years in prison for exporting and selling fentanyl. Since December of 2016, 113 people have died in the UK after overdosing on the drug. It's used worldwide, but 9% of global sales take place here in the UK. Our correspondent Jeremy Cook reports on where the drug is coming from, who's being affected by it, and there is some flash photography coming up.
It looks like chemical warfare, but this is a police raid on a drug dealer who was selling fentanyl over the internet from his home. Kyle Enos has now been sentenced to 8 years in prison. Serious time for a serious drug which has taken lives up and down the country.
Robert was 6'5" by 2 inches wide.
Hi guys.
He was the kindest, gentlest person in the world.
Full of life, full of promise. But when 18-year-old Robert Fraser went to buy cannabis, the dealer gave him something new, something different, something deadly.
I got a phone call from my ex-husband to say that he'd just walked in and found Robert dead in bed. And I just remember thinking, he hasn't said that. He can't have said that. It's not true.
Robert knew nothing about fentanyl, a synthetic opioid drug which users snort, swallow or inject. It's related to heroin, but can be thousands of times more powerful.
Fentanyl's a killer, and the drug dealers are playing Russian roulette with our lives. They give our children drugs, and my child died from it.
Dealing with fentanyl is a game changer for the police and emergency services, and in this government licensed lab.
It can be absorbed by the skin, so we just don't want any risk.
They've been trained to be super careful because just a few grains of fentanyl can kill. So it's powerful and cheap, and for dealers, that means big profits. They've seen it all here: heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, but nothing like this.
Fentanyl's just a different category of drug altogether, and the potential harm that they could cause is just way above anything we've had in the past.
But where is fentanyl coming from? The BBC is undercover in China on the trail of the suppliers. And so a meeting with a laboratory boss and his translator.
Let's talk business. So 1 kg of fentanyl.
China has banned production of some types of fentanyl, but labs can work around the law by making small changes in the fentanyl molecule. And they're happy to ship the drug anywhere in the world.
Price is 2,600.
Within minutes, we are being offered a deal. The BBC bought no drugs, but what's clear is that fentanyl is on sale to anyone with the money to buy.
This one's very powerful.
Powerful.
Very strong.
Yes, very strong. It's,
Do you send this to England?
yes, England.
From China to Britain, UK drug dealers get wholesale deliveries, then break them down to sell on the internet.
Really, it looks much like any other sort of online marketplace.
Jamie Bartlett is an author who writes about the so-called darknet, a hidden and unregulated corner of the internet.
But you have cannabis, ecstasy, opioids, psychedelics, steroids and so on.
408 different offerings of fentanyl on this site alone.
Yeah.
Fentanyl is a highly dangerous substance, and carfentanil, an elephant tranquilizer, is still more deadly.
It makes all of these products that were never within reach, especially of young people, far more easy to get than ever before.
In Teesside alone over the past year, at least 6 deaths have been linked to the drug. Kenny was lucky not to be the 7th.
Ended up using what I thought was heroin, and turns out it wasn't.
What was it?
It was fentanyl or carfentanil, I'm not too sure.
Kenny has had a history of drug abuse, but overdosed on fentanyl. Luckily, he was in the Moses Project drop-in centre with the antidote nearby.
I overdosed. That's as much as I can remember. Injected it and overdosed. Yeah, I was dead. Just seeing red. It was like blood was covering my eyes.
The spike of deaths across northeast England put fentanyl firmly on the radar of the National Crime Agency. They know the drug is taking thousands of lives in America and are determined to stop it here.
The NCA has prioritised the threat from fentanyl and its analogues back in April last year, and it's still priority today. So we have a number of officers working solely on that threat.
Michelle knows the cost of fentanyl, how it took Robert's life, what it does to families.
People are sitting in their bedrooms clicking a button and getting it. Why? How? And the world I grew up in wasn't like that. And I don't want that future for my little lad either. For my surviving little lad.
Michelle is now a campaigner, determined to make us all aware of the dangers of fentanyl, how easy it is to get, how easily it kills. Jeremy Cook, BBC News.